Welcome, viewers. Today, we will be in conversation with a very distinguished personality. She is regarded as one of the tallest cultural icons of India. Guess who she is? She is none other than Dr. Sonal Mansingh, a living legend, a Padma Vibhushan awardee, and a former Rajya Sabha MP, and of course, a household name. So we would like to start this conversation by asking you to tell us about your new production, Bhav Ganga. What is the thought behind it, and how did you conceptualize it?
The concept drops on me. It's happened so often now that it's not even funny. I usually challenge myself at least once a year, if not twice or thrice, that I want to put out something new and something different. Although our dancers are always talking about these things, but what new angle, which new aspect? And then sitting and thinking and tongue, something dropped. And it was about the Ganga. Okay, so I said, yeah, Ganga has been flowing, and there are so many legends and stories, and civilizations have risen and fallen and all that. So what? I think 2-3 days later, another ting happened. Bhav Ganga name dropped. I'm literally telling you, it dropped. And I think it set me, I think I sat for some time. Bhav Ganga. Like Bhav should flow in life like the Ganga. Without the Bhav, there is nothing in life. Even everything in nature has Bhav, including the sun and the moon and the stars and the plants and the trees and animals and birds and insects and human beings. Everything has Bhav. They move and they act and react with Bhav. So, okay, and Ganga, the eternal flow, because we do believe that this is heavenly river. She's a symbol of cosmic energy. And without that energy, nothing moves. So it sort of sat together, and things began to emerge in my mind. And one after another, sort of, the links came, and then the expansion happened. It's over a time. It's not, even a week or a month. Usually, pakne mein der lagti hai na. Like a fruit, it takes time to ripen. And only when it is ripe, then the rasa comes. The flavor, the juice, the taste, that wonderful, wonderful something that should happen. And I'm sure that will happen, because Bhava Ganga has some very beautiful and some hitherto untapped dimensions. So let's see. I'm very excited and nervous.
We wish you all the best for your upcoming production. Now, you have always spoken about how spirituality has shaped your life. So, do you think there can be a connection between dance and spirituality? Can dance also be a spiritual experience?
Dance itself has been considered the highest of yoga among all the yogas. And there are so many yogas. Why? Because Shiva as Nataraja. The Mahayogi is a Nataraja. The Yoga Yogeshwar Sri Krishna is Natanagar. Bhagavati Parvati is Nateshwari. What is spiritual? The word is a very heavy word. I feel that something that happens deep down within oneself, something that uplifts you, something that leaves you with absolute sense of what? You can't even put it into words. Bliss, delight, serendipity, Ananda. Now that's spiritual. It's not only sitting down in meditation in a difficult posture, whatever. That itself is another route. This is the Bhakti Yoga, the Nritya Yoga, the Natya Yoga. And Bhakti and dance and music in India have always been like that. They're not separate. So even a perfect swara, sa lagta hai, perfect. Something happens. A perfect movement or a perfect moment or something that has come together which has universal experience contained in that moment. That's spiritual. It uplifts you, it takes you in another world, it gives you the high without anything. And when you come back, you don't leave reality, you are in that moment. That is spirituality. And Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram happens to you right there. That is spiritual. So dance is the closest and the nearest and the easiest path through bhakti, through move, because the whole body is involved now. And we say body is a temple, sharir mandir hai. And here resides the Chaitanya, the eternal. And therefore, when you are using the body as an instrument, with bhakti, with ananda, with purnata, it takes you inside as well as.
So you started dancing at a very young age, and you still continue to dance with the same passion at the age of 80, and you've always stayed relevant. So according to you, what is the mantra to stay relevant?
Ayyo, ayyo. I have experienced so many different phases, you know. When we were dancing, it was the word of mouth. Oh, I saw so-and-so. You must see her next time. That counted. Newspaper reviews mattered a lot. Then came television. So if people didn't see me at least once in a month, they would say, "Aapne dance chhod diya kya? Kyun bhai? नहीं आपको टीवी पे नहीं देखा, दूरदर्शन पे नहीं देखा." So TV. And afterwards slowly crept in what you call this media, the various platforms, social media, digital. And now, willy-nilly, I'm dragged into it. That is the thing. I'm being scolded by my, team. "Ma'am, you have to do this. That's the thing, you have to do it. Are tum log karo." "No, ma'am, you have to get involved." "Oh, darling, please allow me to dance." "Can you dance?" "No, I'm dancing." No argument, ma'am, you have to do it. So slowly I understood the significance, the relevance. And remaining relevant, why? Why do we not speak about what is relevant today, the contextual issues? And for me, those issues are permanent. Some issues have been there. They come in a different form again. But the essence is the same. So then how do we approach them? How did they approach? How do our Shastras, our stories, our Puranas tackle it? What do they tell us? What are the messages? And these messages I'm always trying to give through my dance, my own dance, my katha, my productions.
So you are an inspiration to millions of people across the globe, and especially women. And you have built an illustrious career all on your own through sheer merit. So what does it take for a woman to build a career like that of yours all on her own?
Tough question. It's a constant and continuing work, relentless. One can't say that, I'm done, I'm there, now. I don't believe in reaching pinnacles. I don't believe in that. I always say, I myself am a work in progress. All my productions are works in progress. Even if they've been performed on stage 10 times, 20 times, I still find something that can be changed, that can be replaced, that can be taken forward. That is one. The second is reading. Reading, thinking, asking questions, and getting some butter out of it, makhan. So, yeah, hard, tough. I enjoy challenges. And I never thought that, because I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a female, I was young, I'm still young, and very free in my mind. I don't carry baggages. I laugh a lot. So that's one way of dealing with tough situations. And there have been a plenty, I assure you. But theek hai? Who doesn't walk? See, if you turn away from challenges, they will come again in a different form. So the thing is to face them fair and square, look at them in the eye, and deal with them. And you always come out with flying colors. But even if you don't, doesn't matter, try again. That.
So do you think a woman's independence is perceived as a threat by a man? And if so, is there a way to make men understand that it shouldn't be this way? A woman's independence is always an asset. And a man should never be intimidated by it.
Yeah, I've been told many times that I always said, I'm so simple actually. I'm very natural, simple. As I said, I love to laugh. They say, but you intimidate men. But I don't intimidate them. I'm friendly. But if somebody tries to cross the limit, then I say, oh, thank you, bye-bye. So then you are called arrogant, you are called temperamental, you are called difficult. And I've always said, I don't need your certificate. I know who I am. I know what I am. So it depends. I think the male of the species has been, by nature, given this kind of a physical strength. But men have to really develop emotional and mental strength, which normally we believe a woman has naturally, right? Emotional strength. And so somewhere I think the man has to be also empathetic and generous, understanding, and make himself stronger. You are where women can lean on you, where you can lean on her. Then.
So what will be your advice to the young women of India who want to build a career of their, who want to rise in their professional spheres, despite the challenges that patriarchy poses?
No, I don't give advices. I can only say कि लगे रहो. Never give up. Keep going, and believe in yourself. If your belief in yourself gets weaker, then you have lost it. So believe in yourself, and I think when you believe in yourself, things happen. Doors open. And the proverb says, if one door closes, two others open. But at that moment when one door closes, you don't give up. You don't feel sad. You don't sort of get depressed. Today, getting depressed, I'm so depressed. It's become, why get depressed? There are so many doors, there's so many opportunities waiting for you. take life in your hand, mutti mein. Oh, that, remember, nanne munne bacche teri mutti mein kya hai? Mutti mein hai takdeer hamari. Hum kismat ko vash mein karenge. That is what life is about.
Beautiful thought. So what caught my attention in the invitation card to your upcoming production is that you have invited Mr. Tiruchi Siva, who happens to be a DMK MP. So here my question is it possible for leaders belonging to different political parties, and especially if they are not in alliance with each other, to be friends?
Yeah, but they are human beings and they're wonderful friends. And it's not only Tiruchi Siva from DMK. I've invited Sasmit Patra from BJD. I've invited Ranjit Ranjan from Congress. And I had invited a few others also, but these three confirmed. And they'll be there. And they've been wonderful friends all along. So I think friendship rises above party lines,
So now that the BJP has come to power in Delhi, much attention is being given to the cleaning of river Yamuna. Why do you think it was neglected earlier under the previous government? Your views on it?
I would like to ask, like everyone else, CM Rekha Gupta also asked, crores of rupees were given. Where did they go? To clean Yamuna. And how come Yamuna has become worse than even before under the earlier dispensations? So it's not a question, it's a sad situation, it's a sad story. But now if you see, they've started Yamuna Arati. You talked about spirituality earlier. You have to link all these things to spirituality. Yamuna, from Yamunotri, she is supposed to be the sister of Yama, the daughter of the sun, and on the banks of Yamuna, Sri Krishna, Srimad Bhagavad, all that happened, like on the banks of the Ganga, Devi and Shiva. So this is the connection. And Ganga and Yamuna are sisters, Kalindi. Now, the famous story, the famous legend of the Kaliya Naga, the Cobra King, with the entire clan having taken residence in Yamuna, near Gokul and Vrindavan, and making the entire part of that river polluted and poisonous, and people were dying, the birds and the animals were dying, the nature, vegetation was dying, and then Sri Krishna took it upon himself to fight with the Cobra King. And Cobra King surrendered. And Krishna said, go away far from human habitation where you cannot harm anyone. Today, Yamuna is that same stinking, foaming, filthy Yamuna as was described in Srimad Bhagavad. And my question, because I've danced to this myself, and I've also made a group choreography which has become very popular, Krishna Kaliya. And my question at the end has been, who is today's Krishna? So I believe each citizen has to become Krishna, and the government, and not wait for the Supreme Court to order. This water is for all of us, and this is the life-giving water. If there is no river, the Third World War is predicted maybe for clean water, potable water. So we have to be it's a wake-up call. And I'm very happy that the BJP government has taken it up as one of their absolute priorities. Yeah.
Thank you for speaking to us. It was lovely speaking to you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.